In a stunning two-front war on his own government, President Trump has just decapitated the leadership of the nation's border security and effectively purged the police leadership of a major American city. The first head to roll was acting CBP Commissioner David Rourke, a 30-year veteran of the Border Patrol, a man who served under 3 presidents, and a man who was, until yesterday, considered a Trump loyalist. He was fired via a one-sentence letter delivered by courier to his home in Virginia before sunrise. His crime? According to leaked memos from the Department of Homeland Security, Rourke refused a direct order from the White House to retroactively classify the Minneapolis nurse shooting as a counterterrorism operation. He refused to sign the paperwork that would have given the shooter legal immunity. But the second purge is even more shocking because it defies the very concept of federalism. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara has been forced out. Technically, the president cannot fire a local police chief. But at 7 a.m., the Department of Justice announced it was placing the Minneapolis Police Department under federal receivership due to systemic failure to maintain order. The condition of the federal takeover? The immediate resignation of the chief. Why? Because Chief O'Hara did the one thing you cannot do in this administration. He told the truth. Late last night, the chief released the unredacted 911 dispatch logs and the ShotSpotter audio data that proves conclusively that the federal agents fired first, fired without warning, and fired at an unarmed woman. He exposed the president's lie. And for that, he lost his badge. In this deep dive special report, we are going to break down the unprecedented legal maneuvers Trump used to seize control of a local police department. We are going to analyze the Federal Vacancies Reform Act loophole he is using to install a radical loyalist at the Border Patrol without Senate confirmation. And we are going to show you why the U.S. military is currently holding emergency meetings at the Pentagon to decide if they will obey the next order. The guardrails are gone. The purges have begun. To understand why Commissioner Rourke was fired, we have to look at the legal trap the White House is currently in. The shooting of Sarah Jenkins on Tuesday night was a PR disaster, but legally, it was a catastrophe. The agent who fired the shot, Agent 734, is facing first-degree murder charges from the state of Minnesota. The only way to save him and to save the administration from a conspiracy charge is to invoke the Federal Tort Claims Act, FTCA, and claim the agent was acting within the scope of employment during a national security event. If it's a national security event, the case moves to federal court where the DOJ can dismiss it or claim qualified immunity. If it's just a police action, it stays in state court and the agent goes to prison. On Saturday night, the White House counsel drafted a memo declaring the Minneapolis protest a domestic terror insurgency. They needed Commissioner Rourke to sign it. They needed the career law enforcement officer to swear on paper that a group of nurses and teachers holding signs were terrorist combatants. Rourke refused. According to sources who spoke to the Washington Post, Rourke threw the memo across his desk and said, "I enforce the border. I don't sign death warrants for American citizens." He knew that signing that memo would be perjury. He knew it would destroy the Border Patrol's reputation forever. So he said no. Trump didn't just fire him, he humiliated him. The termination letter posted on Truth Social by the president himself accused Rourke of being weak, low energy, and a deep state saboteur. He fired a man for obeying the law. The situation in Minneapolis is even more dangerous because it involves a constitutional crisis. The 10th Amendment generally protects states and cities from federal commandeering. The president cannot just fire a mayor or a chief, but Trump's DOJ found a loophole. The Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994. This law allows the DOJ to sue police departments for patterns and practices that violate civil rights. Usually this leads to a consent decree, a reform plan. But Trump flipped the logic. The DOJ argued that the Minneapolis Police Department's refusal to assist federal agents during the riots constituted a violation of the civil rights of the citizens to be protected. They argued that by not cracking down, the police were violating the law. It's a twisted legal argument, but they filed an emergency motion in a federal court with a Trump-appointed judge at 2 a.m. The judge granted a temporary receivership. This put the MPD under the direct control of the U.S. Marshals Service. The first order of business for the new federal receiver: accept the resignation of Chief O'Hara. Chief O'Hara didn't go quietly. At 8 a.m., he held a press conference on the steps of City Hall. surrounded by his rank-and-file officers who are effectively on strike. He held up a USB drive. "They want my badge because I wouldn't lie for them," O'Hara said. "They said we called for help. We didn't. They said Sarah Jenkins was armed. She wasn't. Here is the proof." He handed the USB drive to the press. It contained the dispatch audio. You hear the MPD commanders on the radio screaming, "Who are these guys in camo? Get them out of our sector. They are shooting civilians. Pull back." The local police were not working with the feds. They were terrified of the feds. Trump purged the chief to silence the witness. But the evidence is already out. Now that Rourke is gone, who runs the Border Patrol? And more importantly, how does Trump install a loyalist without a Senate confirmation hearing? The Senate is currently revolting, as we discussed in our last video regarding the House shutdown. There is zero chance they would confirm a hardliner. Enter the Federal Vacancies Reform Act of 1998, FVRA. This is the scary deep dive part. The FVRA allows the president to temporarily fill a vacant position with an acting official for 210 days. Usually the first assistant, the deputy, takes over. But the act also allows the president to pick any senior employee from the agency or any Senate-confirmed official from another agency. Trump isn't picking the deputy, who is also a career professional. He is picking Tom Homan, or rather, someone like Tom Homan, a hardliner, a cable news pundit. We are hearing rumors he will appoint a controversial former ICE director who has publicly called for using live rounds at the border. By using the FVRA, Trump bypasses the Senate entirely. He installs a wartime general at the head of DHS just in time to sign the terrorist designation memo that Rourke refused. This is how you weaponize the bureaucracy. You fire the professionals and install the partisans using loopholes designed for emergencies. While the firings were happening, the hackers were busy. The Glass House, the group that leaked the body cam footage on Friday, just dropped the Sunday files. This dump focuses on the communications between the White House and the DHS command center during the Minneapolis shooting. It confirms the kill order wasn't a rogue decision. It was a doctrinal shift. The document, Operation Gothic Serpent 2, Rules of Engagement. This classified document, dated January 20th, Inauguration Day, outlines the new ROE for Federal Rapid Response Teams. It explicitly authorizes preemptive neutralization of agitators, kinetic dispersal, live fire if agents feel encircled, media blackouts, jamming cell signals in operational zones. The most chilling part? A handwritten note in the margins next to the kinetic dispersal section. Experts are analyzing the handwriting. It simply says, "Do it, stop the bleeding, DJT." If that note is authenticated, the President of the United States personally authorized the rules of engagement that killed a nurse. It makes him a co-conspirator in a war crime. This is why Rourke wouldn't sign. He saw this document. He knew it was illegal. And now the world sees it too. With the civilian leadership purged, the spotlight turns to the military. General Charles Q. Brown, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, is in a nightmare scenario. The president is legally his boss, but the president is issuing orders that might be illegal, firing on civilians, seizing cities. And now the president is purging the civilian oversight, DHS leadership. We are receiving reports of a quiet stand down. The National Guard units in Minnesota, Virginia, and D.C. are reporting readiness issues. Trucks won't start. Comms are down. Personnel are sick. This is a soft mutiny. The generals are slowing down the machine. They are refusing to be the president's personal police force. Trump knows this. That is why he is relying on the federal agents, Bortak marshals, instead of the army. He knows the army might say no. The agents, especially with a new loyalist chief, will say yes. We are setting up for a conflict between the green suits, military, and the camo suits, Trump's feds. If they meet on the streets of Minneapolis, who yields? The purging of the Minneapolis chief has terrified every governor in America. If Trump can seize the MPD, he can seize the NYPD. He can seize the LAPD. It destroys the concept of home rule. Governor Walz, MN, has just declared a state of emergency, but not against the protesters, against the federal government. He has ordered the Minnesota State Patrol to secure the perimeter of the Minneapolis police precincts. He is physically blocking the federal receivers from entering the buildings. This is 1861 stuff. State troopers versus federal marshals, guns drawn over who controls the police station. Governor Newsom, CA, and Governor Pritzker, IL, have pledged support. They are sending legal aid and, rumors say, possibly their own state police reinforcements under mutual aid compacts. The blue states are forming a defensive alliance against the federal DOJ. The United States is unraveling into federal and state factions. Trump claims he is purging the deep state. But what he is actually purging is the check and balance state, the inspector generals, the career prosecutors, the chiefs of police. These aren't secret cabals. These are the people whose job is to say, "Sir, that is illegal." By firing them, he removes the brakes from the car, but he is doing it while driving 100 mph toward a cliff. Without Rourke, the Border Patrol loses its institutional knowledge. Morale collapses. Agents quit. Without Chief O'Hara, the MPD officers walk off the job. Blue flu. The purge doesn't create control, it creates chaos. And chaos is exactly what the Make America Go Away movement is protesting. He is pouring gasoline on the fire to prove he is a fireman. There is a final dark detail from the Glass House leak. A draft document titled Form 45L. It is a reaffirmation of allegiance. It requires all senior executive service, SES employees to pledge loyalty not to the Constitution, but to the office of the president. This is the Führer oath. It has not been implemented yet, but the draft exists. If he tries to roll this out on Monday, the entire federal government will walk out. The CIA, the FBI, the NSA, they will not sign it. Trump will be left with an empty shell of a government run by acting loyalists and 4chan moderators. We thought the Saturday night massacre, Nixon, was bad. Nixon only fired the special prosecutor and the AG. Trump just fired the border chief, the police chief, and effectively declared war on the civil service. He is consolidating power because he is losing authority. He is tightening his grip because the sand is slipping through his fingers. As we head into Monday, the government is fundamentally different than it was on Friday. It is smaller, it is angrier, and it is entirely unmoored from the law. Chief O'Hara is gone. Sarah Jenkins is dead, but the truth is out, and no amount of firing letters can put the genie back in the bottle. Subscribe. We are monitoring the Pentagon. If General Brown resigns, that's the signal. Stay safe. Let's explain why the terrorist designation matters so much for the agent. Qualified immunity protects cops from lawsuits unless they violate clearly established rights. Shooting a kneeling nurse is a violation of a clearly established right. However, military immunity Westfall Act is absolute. If the agent was fighting a war, he cannot be sued. He cannot be charged. That is why Trump needs Rourke to sign the memo. He needs to retroactively turn a protest into a war so he can protect his enforcers. Without that protection, the agents will stop obeying orders because they don't want to go to jail. Rourke's refusal leaves the agents exposed. Watch for mass resignations from the rapid response teams tomorrow. They know they have no air cover anymore. Has the feds ever taken over a police department like this? Yes, but usually with consent. New Orleans, Detroit, Oakland, they had consent decrees. But a hostile takeover? This is unprecedented. It violates the anti-commandeering doctrine, Prince vs. United States. The Supreme Court will have to decide this, but Trump is betting that by the time the court rules, the opposition will be crushed. He is ruling by fait accompli. The Sunday morning massacre wasn't about cleaning house. It was about hiding the body, but the body is still there, and the whole world is watching. See you tomorrow. The markets open in 24 hours, and Wall Street hates massacres.